Hey, everybody, welcome to another great episode of the Rodcast. I'm here with Pastor Rod, and we're going to talk today about having a passion for cross cultural communication. So, we've been living in Japan for a while now, 22 years almost, actually.
Almost.
Yeah. So, certainly, you've had your fair share of cross cultural communication coming from Australia, moving to Japan. Let me just ask a little icebreaker question. What has been some of the major culture shocks, let's say, moving from Australia, coming to Japan, to very different cultures? What has been some funny things or interesting things that you've found different in the culture?
Well, there's some really obvious ones, like you got to take your shoes off at the door.
Yeah.
And we learnt this early with these wonderful, kind, nice Japanese. When you made a mistake and wore your shoes into their house, would say shoes. And very quickly you learnt to take your shoes off at the door. They were not offended, but it was clear you were going to take your shoes off. And Japanese are very, very polite. They want a bit of space, even though we're crushed on the trains. They want their space, and so do I actually. So you got to try and give space, and instead of shaking hands, it's more the bow, which actually is really nice. And especially during COVID, it was actually made a lot of sense. And so cultural differences can be a lot of fun. Just this very upfront things. Oh, let me learn about that or this, or and then there's language bloopers, which I don't know if we'll get into those. You've heard me do one or two in 20 years, right? Yes,
I've heard a few. Yeah.
a few. Yeah, we've had a few. So there's language bloopers, but cultures are great if you love the people, because yes, we make mistakes, but when we love the people, we learn that okay, that meant something, and I'm going to learn. So, don't want to be one of these Australians that come here and go, I'm Australian and I can do this anywhere, and this is what I do. And no, that's not very kind. So, someone once told me, this is a country of 125 million people. Someone once said to me, it's easier to change one than it is to change 125 million. In other words, Rod, you change.
Yeah.
You be the one. And I think that's a great concept with cross-cultural ministry, is just having an understanding, an open heart, and we learn and we grow. And it's the same in any culture I've been to, whether it's Islamic or Hindu or Buddhist or Catholic or Christian. Just learning the basics is because you love the people and you want to have a good relationship. And it's fun. I think this area should be a fun learning curve. If it's not, I think you may not be a great cross-cultural communicator, because I think it's supposed to be fun. Life's supposed to be fun and adventurous, and culture is an adventure, don't you think? You've had a few.
Yeah.
What about you? Yeah, you're a bit younger than me, but you've had a few.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, there's certain things that you pick up being in a different culture. For example, the train etiquette.
Yes.
When you're on a train, there's unwritten rules, such as don't eat on the train,
Right.
or you got to be quiet on the train, which I've had to learn the hard way many times for being too loud and rambunctious on the train.
No, not you.
No, surely not I. Me a lot of times has had many interesting things transpire on the trains. So there's that aspect of it. So there's usually these kind of unwritten rules in each culture. Sometimes you can prepare before you enter a different culture, such as learning, in Japan, you take your shoes off at the door. But then there's also other things that people maybe don't tell you about. And once you kind of get on the ground, then you find out, this is a thing. Oh, this is a thing. So I think it's important to be flexible, because you can try to learn as much as you can beforehand, but be flexible once you hit the ground running.
Yeah, and I think that, as I said right at the beginning, it's about loving the people. And when you love the people, this cultural learning can be fun, and it should be fun. It's like, oh, you do that. I'm sorry. I remember we went to one of those sushi trains. Everyone in the world should know what a sushi train is by now. It's a little, in a restaurant, a little, it's like a train with bits of sushi on it, and you choose the one you like. I
Conveyor
like the
belt.
one with the it goes in a circle, and they put new ones on, and people take them off. Well, we had a young guy from Australia visit us, and he said, "Oh, wow, let's go to the sushi train." And he could see everything on there was raw fish or raw cod or raw whatever it was, and then he saw one was cooked, and he took it off the sushi train and he ate it. He loved it. And then he took everyone off the sushi train. He took about 6 off the. Were you there that day?
Yeah, I was there. I remember this.
On the train, on one track, there was about 6 of these one cooked fish sushis. He took them all off in front of him. He's going, "This is amazing. What is this?" And we said, "It's eel." And his face dropped. And he tried to put him back on the sushi train. And we said, "You can't put him back on. That'd be seen as dirty." So he went, "Oh, okay." And he had to pay for them.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he learned the lesson that day.
Yeah.
But he's a great guy. We all laughed, and we still do. And I think that's the thing. As long as you laugh and can laugh at yourself and learn and waste a bit of money in that case.
Yeah.
It should be an adventure. And,
Yeah.
I married a woman from Argentina.
Oy.
And you married a woman from Japan who's half Colombian. We're really in cross-cultural communication.
Oh, yeah.
And but we chose that too, and it's been an absolute adventure and joy. New foods, new way of saying things. Hey, same for you. I'm sure you enjoy the spice of culture.
Yes, the Colombian spice. I like it. I think it's also funny to mention, like, because some people might be listening to this and thinking, well, I don't live in a different culture, or I'm just kind of in my own little ecosystem and it's kind of the same all around me. But I think it is important to note that there's all kinds of different microcosms of what cross-cultural communication would look like. Because, like you said, even between a man and a woman, a husband and wife,
come on,
that's some cross-cultural communication right there.
Yeah, there's been books. There used to be a book when I was young called "Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus," and it was a bestseller for 10 years, I think, explaining different differences. We're from different planets.
Yeah. So there's that aspect too. And I think even people that might be thinking, oh, say Australian living in Australia, I think there's also the aspect of cross-cultural communication if we talk about between a Christian and a non-Christian. Automatically, there's a cross-cultural communication there because we're coming from two different cultures, two different backgrounds and worldviews. So I think this cross-cultural communication is not just for people, say us Australians living in a different country like Japan, or Americans living in Tahiti, or like, I don't know, wherever it is, but it's for all of us, all of us believers as well. And so, I'd love to talk more about that today as well.
Sure, let's talk about that. And I agree with you. And right now around the world, there's a lot of immigration, a lot of intermarriage, a lot of people even from different parts of, let's say, United States, different cities and regions, and people talk about the regions and laughing about the accents and the honestly, this world is really cross-cultural, and I think even with social media now, it's just we're looking at things from Tahiti, like you just said, or Malaysia. We're really exposed to culture more than ever before, and it's a great thing to learn about cross-cultural communication. It's a great concept. Yeah. And as you said, Christian and non-Christian in sharing faith and what's important. And let's go. Let's talk about it.
So let's hone in on that specific aspect of us as Christians. We have been given a mandate by God, by Jesus, right, to go into the world, make disciples, baptize them, and teach them to obey. So this is kind of the Great Commission that we've been given. So what do you find is maybe some reasons, or if not, like maybe the major reason, why people either just don't do it, or they're afraid to do it, or something's happened to prevent them from doing? Like, what is it that prevents us from crossing lines, crossing borders, in the
Yeah.
good sense that we're here to build bridges with different cultures.
I mean, as soon as you ask what is it, I'm thinking of different people I've met, and there are different reasons. You mentioned fear as one. Definitely, people that are not sure of themselves, or people might say, you know, I'm an introvert. I don't really
Mm.
reach out. Um, that sort of area is real, and I just think those people have really uh, have the opportunity to seek God, who is very cross cultural in his word, to see culture in the Bible and what did Jesus do, and ask God to make us more brave.
Mm.
We were just sharing yesterday with our team a scripture where Jesus said in John 16, in this world you'll have trouble. Be brave. Be brave. And I think there is a call for us to, as believers, to say, Lord, there's troubles and there's differences. Could you help me be brave? Could you help me be strong? And I think that's one thing we could really pray into is, God, when I have the opportunity, help me to communicate well, to talk to people, to learn to communicate, or even have the courage, be
Yeah.
daring enough to say something. It's a growing thing, and I think fear is one of them. I think another one, so that's one. Another one would be just the status quo, just living in my bubble.
Right.
Um, you know, here in Japan, we have some wonderful, wonderful people in the American military bases, and they come into our churches, which are very bilingual, very cross-cultural. And the ones that visit us say, you know, on it, we love our, you know, our ship and our life and whatever, but we want to come outside the goldfish bowl. That's what they call it, the
Right.
bubble. We want to experience Japan, and those are the ones that we think really love Japan. That they're the ones that will try the sushi train and
Yeah.
um, that there is actually breaking out of the status quo. I think there is a real something to that, to going to something different than ourselves and saying, even being sponsored in by a friend, can you tell me about that? We're going to go see you know, whatever the show is. Can you tell me about that? And that would be the same as bringing people to church, actually, like sponsoring people in and saying, you're going to experience this and this and this. It's going to be different, and helping people into some level of church culture. So I
Right.
think that the status quo, the goldfish bowl concept, this is my life, and breaking out of that is another one and I think there's another one that I have come across, and it concerns me a little bit, in that people are not willing to want to meet anyone new. Like their life is set, and this is it for the rest of my life. I think as believers, as you said, Jesus said, go and reach people, love people, touch people, reach out beyond yourself. I think as Christians, there is a mandate to reach beyond ourselves. And I was asked once by a mission group going to a certain country, and they told me that this country is very difficult and lifestyle is difficult and reaching people is difficult. Everything sounded difficult. And they said, what should we do? And I just said, just love the people. And I'm not trying to be spiritual. It is the key. It is
Yeah.
the key. It's the overcoming thing, that if you're called to a country and a place and a city, then love the place. There's an old song from the 60s that probably doesn't have a great meaning in some ways. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young was the band, and the song was called "If You Can't Be with the One You love the one you're with." And it always stuck me as
Okay.
a person going elsewhere, although it might have some bad connotation. But to me, it was actually a prophetic word that, you know, if you can't be with your grandma at Christmas, like we live in Japan, and you can't be
Right.
with grandma and grandpa who live in Argentina, if you can't be the one you love, then love the one you're with. I think that is a great concept for Christians. If God sends us, or we're in a different workplace, we're in a different university, we're in a different culture, instead of always saying, I wish I could be in there, then the Christian view would be, well, Lord, help me to love the one I'm with. Help me to love the ones I'm with. So with that mission, I said, I really feel that the number one thing is to recalibrate your language
Right.
from this is hard and that's hard and this is tough and this is hard. Like recalibrate that to, God, we want to love these people. Help us to love these people. And I don't know what the outcome of that was, but that's the outcome for me. Is if you can't be in the culture you want, then love the culture you're in. It's that sort of um, um,
Yeah.
some people say, "Oh, my workplace is so dark," and I say, "Why?" And they say, "Oh, there's no Christians there." I say, "Well, welcome to the world." That
Yeah.
Jesus said, "Be in the world, but not of the world." And so I think there is a Christian challenge
Mm.
to be kind and nice and loving to wherever God places you.
Yeah.
I don't know if I went beyond your question there, but I think it's a really important. Why don't we do it? Well, we
Mm.
mentioned fear and my goldfish bowl, and really not having the understanding. I've got to love these people that God has placed me with, and it's a good challenge. And God will help us to have love because, it says the love of God has filled our hearts. The agape love of God has filled our hearts,
Mm.
and that means we can love people.
So I guess one thing, I guess maybe in my mind, listening to this is if someone is saying the reason that it's difficult for them to reach out is because of fear, well, that then says to me they at least have a baseline desire to reach out,
It's
but
good.
there's something preventing them from doing it.
Mm.
They lack, the courage or the tools or the know-how to be able to take that step to be courageous. But then there's that second category of people, which maybe sounds apathetic, which is they don't even have the desire to reach out. It's not about fear or other circumstances around them. It's just simply there is no desire or there's no desire for the desire. So I guess with someone with fear, that could be combated with, I guess, great teaching and someone to help them, encourage
Mhm.
them, pour
Yeah.
into them. Obviously, reading the word of God is going to be the ultimate remedy to fear because perfect love drives out all fear.
Yeah.
But I guess for that category of people, like you mentioned, the fishbowl, or just, I guess, general apathy, or just not maybe a lack of awareness that this is what needs to be done, how do we remedy that?
Mm.
How can we help someone develop a desire for this in
Yeah.
the first place?
I love the concept that we bring teams to Japan, and we've always, wherever I've lived in Asia, we brought teams to Thailand or Indonesia or the Philippines, etc., or
Mm.
teams to somewhere in Australia. And the concept is I'm sponsoring them in. I'm confident. I know what the culture is, and I know they're going to have a great time. So I've got, as a team leader, I've got the confidence to come on in. And I
Mm.
think when you've got someone like that, the people who are fearful will remain fearful until they start seeing this is actually okay.
Right.
This actually looks fun, and I don't have to do everything. And so it's the realization, the awakening
Mm.
that this is not just okay. This is actually fun because we've been sponsored in. So we bring lots of teams that
Mm.
first day, a team of sort of younger people, sort of shy, and we bring them in and we say, let's go to Starbucks and let's get a coffee and go and order a coffee and sit down and we'll talk to some people next to us, some Japanese people next to us, say hello, and we're from
Mm.
America or Australia, and that fear just seems to melt as
Mm.
people are experiencing the wonderful nature of culture. So we're giving people a good experience of culture, and I think we could do this in almost every culture of the world where there's fear. We could
Right.
take them to somewhere safe. I'm talking about not risky stuff, but safe places,
Sure.
and those preconceived ideas and can fall, and especially when they make a friend
Mm.
with a Japanese or an Indonesian or wherever we are, or an Australian who's from a different area, a different culture, and we're just having fun. Like in Sydney, I know I've been to some, you know, cultural restaurants and laughing about how great their food is and where did you make this? And oh, we got it from here. And the restaurant lights up because they recognize that culture has been made fun.
Mm.
We're not making fun of people, we're having fun with people.
Yeah.
And I think there's an old saying, I'm not laughing at you, I'm laughing with you. But it's sort of true that if we can laugh with the people in the culture, the fear factor goes down and the fun factor goes up. And I'm using the word fun intentionally because I
Mm.
believe cross-cultural communication ends up being fun. Even if
Yeah.
I'm watching someone else do it, like the leader of the team doing it, I'm just watching, thinking, this is fun. The sushi train example where the guy took all the eel off and put it
Yeah.
back, well, that was just plain fun. And we still tease with him about that maybe 10 years later. And it was just funny. But he loved his experience in Japan, that young man. It wasn't a negative. It was like, whoa. I've had experiences in some cultures, some Muslim cultures, where I've had to eat with my fingers and I had the curry running down my arm and my hand and off my elbow, and the whole
Oh,
Muslim community's laughing at me. But I'm laughing too, like, what an idiot am I? And realizing that I didn't have to be perfect. I just had to be loving. And so it's experience of good cross-cultural experience, I think, will make the fear barrier fall down, especially when people are in a team. Um, I see people church planting in Asia with just a husband and wife, and I think that's a hard deal. Unless they really know culture, that's hard.
yeah.
But when you're in a team, um, we're all learners, and we've got our own culture we can lean back on a bit together. Fear
Great.
just drops to the ground.
I guess another thing, just picking up on that, is like you said, the fun factor, learning to laugh. But I think a key factor of that is learning to laugh at yourself,
Right.
like not taking yourself too
Yeah.
seriously. Like, I am the man of God that has sent to this nation, this land. Like not being that guy, like just having fun.
Yeah.
Because being in a different culture, as you and I have both learned, we'll make mistakes. We will look foolish sometimes.
Yeah.
We might do things that might not be the greatest in other people's light. But if are able to laugh about it, if we're able to have fun and be like, yep, I'm the idiot. I'm the one that did something silly. Isn't that funny? Like,
Yeah.
if we're able, like, obviously not intentionally trying to be reckless or a nuisance, but just being able to laugh at yourself, I think.
We've had a couple of teams from Australia at the beginning
Oh no.
that were reckless.
Oh yeah.
I remember one team came, they brought a rugby ball and got into one of the trains where we've got to be quiet. And they were passing the ball, said, pass me the ball. And one old man on the train in Japanese yelled out, be quiet. Sorry. And afterwards the team leader said, did we do too much? I said, yeah, that was too much.
Yeah, definitely too much.
But even that's been like folklore, like the story you tell.
Yeah,
There is a line.
there is a line.
But
I
that
think that
team
team,
leader
yeah,
loves Japan to this day. He doesn't live in Japan, he lives in Australia. To
right.
this day, will laugh with me about that episode and wants to come back to Japan. So again, if you're sponsored into culture and you're given the inside running, the inside view, and this is why it's happening, and it's what they're doing here, understanding, I think fear falls. And let me just touch on what I just said there. Understanding brings compassion. It really does. And so with the group that said we're going to the country where they didn't like the country and they didn't like this and that, and I said, you've just got to love the people. I was thinking, like, have experiences with really good people in the city and cherish the good side of that culture. In that city they were going to, there was danger. There was danger. It was I think, a dangerous city, but I'm sure there's areas that were safe, and going to meet good people, having good experiences with good Christian people and good food. And again, the fear goes down because then we're starting to understand the culture. And I think with why we love Jesus so much is that he understands our culture. Um, and I guess at some point we're going to look at some stories, but
Yeah.
when you see what Jesus does with people, it is just incredibly loving. And it actually says a couple of times he was compassionate. And the Greek word there, the original language, New Testament written in Greek, is his guts, felt, deep feeling. It's the Greek metaphor, picture for compassion is you feel it in your guts, you feel it in your stomach. We say in the pit of your stomach, or a gut feeling. Jesus had this gut feeling for you and me and our cultures. And when we see that, you realize that's love. But I think understanding reduces fear and increases fun as well. We're on the inside now. We understand.
That's great. So what about the person that maybe doesn't have a desire what can be done to help them or encourage them? Can anything be done, humanly speaking, or does it have to be a touch from God? Like, yeah.
Wow, it's a big question. And as Christian leaders, we ask that question a lot. What can reinvigorate the
Yeah.
heart to touch new people? And again, I think we need to look at the causes of that. And I think one of the causes today in today's world is weariness.
Mm,
People are tired.
mm,
People have enough information, enough data, enough viewing, enough input that they don't have energy to reach out and touch other people. I call it weariness, a tiredness of soul. And me too. Me too. I get that too. What do we do in that case? Well, I think we go to prayer and we say, Lord, would you just refresh my heart? Jesus talks about living water bubbling up within us. And Jesus was asked, or told his disciples, when you go to a city and they don't receive you, wipe the dust from your feet.
mm,
And in those days where Jesus walked in Israel, it's very, very fine, lighter dust, gets into everything, gets everywhere. And that's why when you went to a home, the servants washed your feet. Foot washing was a normal thing, everyday life. You didn't wash your whole body, you just washed your feet, maybe your hands. And that wasn't religious. That was because you're dusty.
mm,
And Jesus said, wipe the dust from your feet and move on. And I think sometimes we've had disappointments or we're just tired. Why don't people reach out? I think we just got tired. What do we do? I would say, ask Jesus, would you just wipe the dust from my feet and maybe from my heart? Would you just wipe that? Would you just refresh me and get me ready to meet new people? Um, and that could be done in a moment. You know, some people say, oh, you need to pray and fast for 3 days about that. And for me, I say, well, give me 10 seconds. Give me 1 minute. Give me 3 minutes. I just need a bit of time and ask God to cleanse me because I'm going out again to meet people and I need to have a refreshed heart. And I say to our leaders, you know this, that when we get tired and weary, we're not ready for the next person God brings us.
mm,
Um, so you could be there on Sunday feeling tired at church and miss the opportunity to meet someone amazing. So I just say to our team, just ask God to cleanse your heart, or maybe it's not cleanse, but wash your heart from disappointments and weariness, and just say, Lord, I'm just ready to reach one more, just one more. And I think that my advice to people will be just pray and say, Lord, just cleanse me and free me, ready to meet. There might be one more you want me to meet. So it's living in expectation of what God has for me. I think anyone can do that. I
mm.
really do. And I challenge our leaders to do that all the time, and they do.
Yeah.
And even after a very hard season in a church, I mean, our churches are in a great season right now, but there've been some hard seasons, and
Yeah.
I've had to say to myself and our leaders, come on, let's just let God wipe the dust from our feet and get ready for another great person. And they come. They
Mm.
just come. It's amazing. Um, so yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I like something that I think you've said in the past. I've heard maybe when we were overseas talking to pastors, they were asking like, how do you get so many young Japanese people coming to church in a country where there's less than 1% Christian? It's not part of the culture. It's not part of the zeitgeist of Japanese Christianity, God, religion, even. How are we seeing so many people come to church? And I think your answer was great. It was really simple. It's we meet a lot of people. We meet a lot of people and some come. And so that means that there's a lot of people that don't come, which
Yep.
means there's a lot of dust washing that
Yeah.
has to be done on a weekly basis because there'll be many people that we would meet or our team meets, and many people are very friendly to us,
Mm,
but it is a much smaller percentage of people that end up actually coming to an event, to hang out, a church service.
yeah.
So we meet a lot of people and some come. And I think that's a really great frame, really great perspective to put it in, that
Yeah.
this is not like some magic bullet that works every time. that there's people that will say no. They will, or we will perceive rejection from them because they didn't come to the thing that we asked them to come to. Maybe they're not trying to reject, they're just busy, or, whatever the reason is. But I think it's really important for us to understand that, yeah, people are people. We're also people. They got busy lives. We got busy lives.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just got to keep wiping the dust from our feet
to
see the next one, or the next one, or the next one. So I think that was a really great perspective to have.
And I think what you're touching on there is also having the right perspective of results, anticipating what's going to happen. I mean, we say to our team, there's going to be a lot of people that will just be too busy. They're going to say, no, I'm too busy. It's not rejection. They're too busy. And so talking through real anticipation, what's going to happen. And tonight we're going to go and meet some people, and there might be, 2 or 3 that we meet will want to come to our barbecue, but that's 2 or 3. That's amazing. And so I just think we have to have the right expectation.
Yeah.
And sharing it with the team so that when we come back, it's a win. It's a win. It's not a loss.
Yeah.
And also our team had fun at the same time. So we ate together and we laughed and we met some people. And so that is a good team that will continue. The team that will not continue is we come back and say, no, only a couple interested. It was hard. That team will not continue. So expectations, realistic expectations with faith, with prayer, but still being real. So I think, in Japan, where they've never heard about Jesus, for them to actually come to church and come back again, it might be 1 out of 100 that we meet. People say, well, how do you get so many? Our answer is we actually meet a lot of people, but we have the right expectation that only some will come and only few will receive Jesus, but they will have friends and they'll have friends, and so it goes on. And the right expectation. Let me also come back to an example from Australia with small groups. A lot of people run small groups that did not grow. And as I talk about that with people, it's obvious that they were very much a small group interested in themselves. I don't know how else to say it. It's just the group had the purpose of just us, and they're saying, we're not growing. And there was just no concept of engaging their neighbors or friends or having barbecues. I just think it is easy to talk about just having friends, increasing friendships, even way before they come to church, just increasing our pool of friendships. I would say to anyone, you can do that with the right expectation. The expectation of what I'm doing is to make friends. And out of the friends, some might be interested to hear about Jesus. So small groups in Australia, I've always seen them grow because I've always had the expectation that we're going to invite friends and neighbors over time. I do get that pushback a lot about small groups in the Western world. They don't work. And then I think, well, actually they do, but they've got to be based around the desire to grow and invite other people rather than, the other is us for no more close the door groups.
Right.
And that group's, it's very hard to grow when it's our goldfish pole. It's for us only. And it's for deep teaching, and it's for us. And well, you've just spoken the future of that group. But I think that when we have the concept of expectation and excitement that God is going to do something, then we start to invite again, and it will take time, but God will give us good people.
Right. I guess the biggest difference between a small group and a clique is the desire to invite new people in.
Yeah, I think so. And that some people, I've heard it many, many times. I've been a pastor for 40 years, almost 40 years, 38 years. And I've heard people say that a lot. We just want our group to be just us. I heard it recently on a podcast, very, very experienced pastors talking about they don't want anyone else to join their group, 4 couples, and that's it. And I thought 2 things. One is that's sad that we've got such high-level leaders not wanting to invite people.
Yeah.
And the second thing I thought was, over my 38 years of being involved with small groups, because I always have, groups that are very much inward focused for years actually don't last either. Either someone moves away, or there's a disagreement. So the whole concept of groups we need to have new energy. And we talk about a small group can actually change with just one seeker or one new Christian or one miracle. Just one thing happening to one person renews a whole group. Yesterday we heard one of our young girls sharing the same story. It was a seeker, not even a believer yet, a seeker coming in asking questions. And she said the whole group just lit up. It was so exciting. You've seen that too, right?
Yeah, 100%. Even in my own group last year, which is mostly Christian guys from Christian backgrounds, we had a new guy join from like brand new, like from zero, got saved, got baptized. So that event really helped bring a fresh breath of life into the group. So absolutely, having new people join, and it doesn't have to be that story exactly, but it could just be just a new person joining and having everyone be welcoming. It's just something good for your soul to see that happen, to see community happening in action, right? So I love in the Bible too, there's many times where Jesus also crossed cultures, he crossed borders, he crossed party lines, if you wanted to get like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What have you seen from watching Jesus' example? Some things or some tips or tricks that we could learn from.
Well, I think this far into the podcast, it's going to be hard to delve deeply, but I love reading every story of Jesus because he truly is a master of cross-cultural, whether he's with Jewish people, women, children. I love the story where the children just love Jesus. You always know a healthy person where children, love to be around them. They're fun and happy, and and the disciples say, children, stay away. And Jesus said, don't stop the children. Jesus would have been a great kids worker, a great, sick person, people who are sick and dying worker. Like he just crossed every boundary. The woman at the well was a Samaritan woman, which we'll talk about maybe sometime. And there were just so many cross-cultural issues there. And to watch what Jesus did, I just think he's a master. I want to learn from this master, from this God who loves all cultures and all people. I want to learn from the Jesus stories. And sometimes he's shocking. He shocks people. He, spat in one guy's eyes to heal him. And I'm thinking that's really cross-cultural. I just love that. I love the surprising Jesus. And we love the Chosen TV series because it portrays some of the backstory for the surprise. It just makes you realize he was really, really surprising. He was criticized for having a meal with a tax collector who became a believer, Matthew and his friends, and then the Nicodemus, one of the highest level Pharisees, came at night and said, Jesus, tell me about it. And just the stories of cross-cultural, different status, different style, different religions. Jesus went and spent a lot of time in the non-Jewish parts, Tyre and Sidon and the Decapolis cities, 10 cities, we just can't get into it. But the amount of stories of him with people outside Judaism and seeing their response. The only people he had real trouble with, though, was the very, very religious Jewish people. They crucified him on the cross, the very religious ones, not Jewish people, the very, very religious ones who got upset at him about Sabbath and a few other things. But Jesus was the master, and I think, well, that's our God, and he gives us the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit is there to teach us all things, including cross-cultural communication. So I don't know if we want to finish here or you want to talk about one of those stories.
I think that's a great place to finish. I'm sure we can talk more in depth about Jesus' actual example, what he did. Like you mentioned, especially the story when he crossed culture, crossed actual physical land into Samaria and met the woman at the well, said, I had to come here, had to be here.
Mm.
And I love that heart that he had. So I think
Yeah.
today, just talking about the passion, the desire to actually cross cultures, to
Mm.
meet people that are different than ourselves, that
Yeah.
think different than ourselves, that live different than ourselves. I think that's, like you said, that's probably the most important part that we see in Jesus's ministries, that he had the desire. He wasn't apathetic. He didn't stick to his own crew, his own team. He wasn't fearful. He was God. He was Jesus, and he was bold in the things that he
I love
wanted
it.
to do and the places he wanted to go.
Mm. Just maybe finish with this one scripture, Luke 10:2. Jesus told them, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers, cross-cultural communicators into
Mm,
the harvest field." It's a great scripture. See the people. See what God wants you to do.
fantastic. I love it. I guess we'll end it there. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to another great episode of the Rodcast. Tune in next time for some more great content.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you enjoyed today's episode, why don't you subscribe on whatever platform you are listening to this, and we'll see you next time.